Hi, Flavia.
Hello, Danielle.
How are you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing well. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did. Thank you. Did I pronounce yours correctly?
Great, great. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Hi, I'm Janet.
Oh, I'm hearing some feedback from somewhere.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a couple tabs open.
No worries.
I'm in two rooms right now.
Oh, okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't have anything playing.
Nope, you're good.
I will turn off my notification sounds though, now that I think of it. I don't have any questions, but maybe a heads up for you that three of our speakers will not be listed as speakers. They're going to be participants, but we were told that they can just raise their hand and we can bring them on stage that way.
Three of your speakers. Who are they?
So one of them is Carla. Oh gosh.
They're currently not listed as speakers, but they're going to be raising their hands to come on screen.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So that will just pop up when someone raises their hand. That will pop up for you and the other moderators and speakers in the Q&A session, and you'll just hit that and allow them to come on screen with you.
Okay, so in the Q&A tab on the right side.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask where that's gonna pop up. So thank you for answering that in advance. Trying to think of anything else. I did ask during a training session, because we are planning an open floor discussion, how many people can be quote unquote on stage at the same time?
I would say, I think it's like 25, but with everyone having video and microphone on, it might slow things down a little bit. So I would try to keep that as low as possible.
Okay. No, that's more than fair. Yeah, I was told that someone had seen 5, but no more than 5. So I was thinking, oh, well, if we need more than 5, it'd be good to know. But yeah, we wouldn't go.
No, it's definitely possible to do more than 5. It just kind of slows down things for people. And obviously we don't want that to happen.
Yep, of course. Okay. And then can we have multiple people on stage, but only say a handful of them talking, without having to kind of take them off stage, put them back on stage when they need to speak and that sort of thing? Would that
one of the things you can do is, I would suggest, if people aren't speaking and they're still on camera, just ask them to mute their mics. But also, as a moderator, you do have the power to, so if I, let's see, what if I put that in there? So I typed a little thing in the Q&A. If you see it, there's a little red triangle with an exclamation. So you can click that button and you can mute people and turn them off. So also, I believe if you click my icon in my little thing, you can turn me off too.
Oh, wow.
So you can go ahead and mute people on your own. But I would just, you could ask, if people aren't speaking, just make sure their mics are muted.
Okay. I'm seeing 1988 in your in your contact thing. That's my birth year too. Oh, I didn't know you could put that in there. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Well, I obviously don't want to kick you out. So.
My video popped on. Did you do that?
No.
All right. I'm going to pop into the other room real quick and see how they're doing. But if you have any questions, you can ask anything in the moderator chat. That's where you're going to be able to communicate with everyone that is moderators and speakers. Otherwise, the chat is open to everyone.
Okay. Should I remove your comment from the Q&A?
You can, but when people enter, they won't see it because they weren't in the room when I put it in there.
Oh, good to know. Okay, thank you, Danielle. Yep. And hi, Diana.
Hi, Flavia. Hi, Mbumi.
Yeah, I was going to ask how to pronounce your name. I didn't want to say it incorrectly. Is it Boomy?
Yeah, you can call me Bomi.
Okay.
Bomi, yes. Hi, Flaviana. Flavia.
Yes,
Sorry.
Flavia.
All right. Sorry, Flavia. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
What's the time where you are? Because ours is like way, it's evening.
Yeah. I don't think they could have slotted us in any earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been just, I think, an hour earlier, and someone else already had that spot.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're up so late. Here it's almost noon.
No, it's not late, but it's
Okay.
7 p.m. here. It's not so late, but I'm not used to working at this hour.
Yeah,
Right.
this is the relaxed time, right?
Yeah. Hey, Nan.
Hello.
Hey, it's funny because I just clicked on the icon for my profile and it immediately kicked me out of this conversation.
Oh,
Ah,
yeah, you have the power to kick people out. And actually, Youth Mobilize asked us, we have to uphold their what's it called, their policies. So if anyone is being rude or inappropriate in the chat, we have the right to kick them out. We actually have to kick them out. So,
All right.
yeah.
and Flavia, are you able to see the participants now? How do you see that?
So I was able to see them, I think, before our session was open, but now I don't know this. Yeah, the system's new to me, so I don't know how to see them now. And I can't access the info page because the URL is now this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because if I click the other one, then it just kicks you out. You're gone.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so how will we know, I guess, if someone raises, their hands and
Okay, so I already asked this because we will need to know that for the speakers, because none of them have the rights they should. So they're gonna click raise their hand, which is gonna be visible for them. It's not visible for us in the bottom left corner of the screen. If you add me to WhatsApp, I can quickly send you a screenshot that I took earlier. I snuck into another session to kind of see what it's like to be a participant, just to, know as much as possible.
Where are you?
I added you to the WhatsApp group earlier in the day. I thought you had seen the notification.
Oh, there it is. I never get notifications for this. Okay, thank you. Okay. You're added. Okay, I'm in the group now. And let me just grab that image in case you need to show speakers. Or are the speakers in the group as well?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay.
Sun is here. Yay.
Hi, Hassan.
Oh, he made.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Fine.
I guess everyone joins the main stage.
Yeah.
Hassan, it's good to have you. Thank you for agreeing to join the conversation and just stepping in on such a short notice.
Yes, thank you. We're excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you for this opportunity. Actually, I'm excited to be here.
Great. So I sent us a picture to the WhatsApp of what the raise your hand button looks like. And then once a speaker who doesn't have, like Hassan, the ability to just join like this, I don't know what they did in the back end. Some speakers can, some speakers can't. So those who can't will click the button and a notification will appear for us on the right side under Q&A. And we will have to click accept or something like that. I haven't seen this part yet, so I'm not sure. And then we can quote unquote let them on stage.
Okay, I saw the screenshot.
Yeah, and people are already coming on stage. So this is interesting.
Hello,
Hassan?
everyone.
Hello.
Let me just introduce myself. I am Kanis from WEGS. I'm your in-session moderator. I will be moderating the Juno chat box for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to ask you all, what do you want? Should I read out the questions for you, or you want the participants to ask you the question directly on camera?
I think that's a question for you, Diana. I know you had some ideas for how we want to use the chat.
Would also be good if you read the questions out loud. But I guess also in some of the questions that we have in the back end, we thought to do something creative, like a chat storm, where we ask a specific question and we tell them to reflect maybe, and then just type into the chat, but don't send until we say send, and then, you know, everything just flows in, all the ideas. And maybe just because of the time, we could just do that in the end and say, you know, leave it as a reflection moment, Flavia, and say, we're trying to harvest what everyone has say, what are you going to apply when you go back, and just give them like 5 minutes to sit in and reflect and type what they have in mind, and then on count of 1, 2, 3, they hit send. So maybe we could use that as a model in the end. But then otherwise, anything coming in from the Q&A, I think, Kanis, you're free to read it out loud, and they could target the question to anyone on the panel.
All right.
I will also be moderating the chat over on YouTube. So I'll be posting comments through from YouTube into here, and Kanis will pick those up. But if you're mentioning, sorry, I've got two screens. If you're mentioning to the delegates to write comments in chat, can you remember as well that there's Laura in YouTube, that they can message me with questions as well?
Yes, I'll make a note. I'll make a note in my doc that I have open. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Is there a link for that? Can you share it here for YouTube? It'll be great to share it across our
Hi
networks
team,
as
this
well.
is Joseph.
The
Hi,
link.
Hello, just wanted to check in and see if you guys are encountering any issues, or are we good?
No issues so far.
That's what I love to hear.
I know Kelly's trying to access the session, but I'm not sure what she should have facilitator rights, but I'm not sure because I can't see.
Okay. Do we have her email address by any chance?
Yes.
Okay.
She's got multiple, so I'm hoping this is the right one. And do you want me to just drop it in the chat?
Yes, or in the mod chat, please. In the mod chat.
Yes.
Okay, copy address. Let me see what's going on.
If that's not the right one.
And is she the only one that's not able to get in?
I know we have 2 more speakers, but I think they're okay with joining right when the session is to start.
Okay. Bridging the Digital Divide.
Yeah, but Kelly is moderating the actual.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
It seems that she's already added as a speaker or a presenter on this platform. So I'm wondering what she's. Do we know if she's logged in or anything? Or
let me just check with her. I sent her the direct link to this. Should she be accessing it a different way? Was that maybe the?
Yeah. So not necessarily. I mean, she'll need to log in first, for sure. So once she logs in, she should be able to just click on the link. The other way to do it is to just go on program and then click on Bridging the Digital Divide. And she should be able to get in that way as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then lastly, I would advise for her to refresh the page if she still continues to encounter any issues.
Okay, Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome. I'm going to hop in the other room, but let me know if there's any questions through email, or like one of your moderators as well should be able to provide. And lastly, if there are any moderators in this room, please be sure to just join this session as an observer so that you are not on the screen itself. So to do that, you just refresh your page and then join the session, and then be sure to click as observer so that you're not on the screen along with the facilitators. All right?
Perfect. Thank
awesome.
you.
Good luck, guys. This is going to be exciting. I know you guys are going to do well.
Thank you. We are excited.
Awesome. Perfect. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to refresh now and join as an observer. I'm not sure. I think after that, we'll only be able to communicate through the mod chat on the right side. Okay.
Hey, I did click the observer button. I'm pretty sure I'm still on the screen.
Yeah, I'm on the screen too. I refreshed and clicked as observer. So maybe once more facilitators appear, we get pushed down or out of the screen. Maybe that's what happens. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have joined as observer, but I'm still on the screen.
Okay. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm assuming
Wait,
we'll
wait.
Yeah.
We will be live in 4 minutes, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm not sure if Sophia is already here.
I'm not sure if she's able to join until 15 minutes after, so when the session starts. Yeah, I don't see her listed under speakers, so she likely won't be able to join. I'm just gonna mute myself for a sec and call Kelly and see how she's doing. 1 second.
Okay, great. Yes.
Hi, Carla.
I'm off. Here I'm on. Good morning, everybody. How are you?
We're great. How are you? Nice to see you.
I'm looking forward. I'm sure that this conversation is going to be very interesting, very inspiring. I'm really looking forward.
Me too. Yeah, cannot wait to hear the young people and you as well.
Yeah. No, the whole event. I was just listening to the one before. Very interesting. So I was canceling some things so I can continue listening to the other sessions. It's really very well organized. Congratulations to the organizers back there.
Just a reminder, guys, we will be live on less than 1 minute.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Carla. Sorry, I was in the other room.
Hi, Kelly. And I'm glad it works because I saw you raised your hand in the Q&A and accepted that. We're just trying to get to know Juno. We've all been on Zoom and all these other platforms.
Can you all please turn on your cameras? We are on live now. Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Kelly.
Can you, I'm just seeing a black screen at the moment, everyone. I can't actually see you. Can you see me?
We can't see the top half of you for some reason. I think there's something in front of your camera, maybe?
Oh no, I have to switch my camera. It's not letting me switch it.
There it is.
There we go. Now we can see you.
Yeah, I can't see anyone, but can you see me?
We can
Yes,
see
we
you.
can see you.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Coming in front of your camera. Yes, that.
Hi, everyone. So,
Well, hello, everybody. Hassan, Sophia. I've been researching a little bit about the work that you're doing, and it's amazing. Congratulations for the things that you're doing in Lebanon and Tanzania. It's really, really interesting.
How are you? Thank you, really.
Hello, everyone. We seem to have lost Kelly, so I can start things off while she's finding her way back to us. Welcome to this exciting session on bridging the digital divide and the Global Youth Summit at large. Some of you are joining us through the Juno platform, and many more are joining through the live broadcast and multiple social media channels. A warm welcome to all of you. Before we kick off, a bit of housekeeping. Please note that this session is part of the Global Youth Summit. We strongly encourage you to explore other sessions in any one of the 3 tracks each day of the summit. By joining this session, everyone who will have the opportunity to speak consents to their image and audio being broadcast. By participating in the GYS, you have agreed to behave professionally, respectfully, and be culturally sensitive toward other people to promote the principles of respect, diversity, inclusion, as well as actively prevent and not engage in abusive behavior of any kind that leads to any harm, prejudice, discrimination, or harassment against any person. If you do not adhere to these principles or summit code of conduct, you will be removed from the session and potentially banned from the entire event, and the organization that nominated you will be notified of your actions. We have a safeguarding team moderating our interaction on the Juno platform, the live broadcast chat function, and all social media channels. Should you at any point feel unsafe or witness concerning behavior, please reach out by sending an email to safe@globalyouthmobilization.org. You may also get in touch with our support team at the virtual help desk. All information emailed to the email address will be kept private and confidential. Thank you so much. And I don't, oh, Kelly's back. So let me just let her back in here. Kenise, she's not showing up for some reason.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Kelly.
Can you see me?
We can, again, not see the top of you. It's on the wrong camera again. So we might have
Oh, gosh. You know what we're just going to have to do? I can't see my screen, so you're going to have to tell me if you can see everything, okay? Because I can't see what you're seeing.
There's
yeah, we can see you.
Light.
You can proceed, Kelly.
Yeah.
You can see it, okay?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. We're going to thank you, everyone, for your patience. So sorry for the technical difficulties. Hello.
Hi, Kelly. I already did the welcome and the housekeeping, so we can just dive right in.
Wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Lavelle. It's a pleasure to connect with you all, and I'm so thrilled to have all of our incredible speakers join us today to discuss bridging the digital divide. So to start off, I want to just introduce each of our speakers and give each an opportunity to do a brief introduction of their background and why they're passionate about our topic today. We'll start with Carla.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Carla Ruiz Coffino. I am from Guatemala, and I've been from 20 years now an expert in the digital industry. I'm a social media expert for 15 years now. And at the beginning, of course, at the beginning of my career, I was working a lot with brands and advertising, you know, selling products and services. But I have seen firsthand the impact that technology can have, you know, in lives, and it can be wonderful. And especially in Latin America, in rural areas, you don't have access to that. So that's why I'm so happy to be in this discussion, because I really think that we have to do something about that digital divide that we are living.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carla, for being here with us. And next, we'll go to Sophia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia Abed. I am a telecommunications engineer working for Vodacom Tanzania. I'm also a part of DOT Tanzania as a youth-led advisory board member. I've been working with them for about 3 years now, and it's been really great. I'm also an ambassador to an organization called Next Einstein Forum, which focuses on educating more people about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Yes, that's basically what I do.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And then Hassan.
Hello, everyone. Hope all of you are fine. My name is Hassan Bouk. I am from Lebanon. I'm a trainer at Digital Opportunity Trust Lebanon. Also, I am a member in curriculum committee and in YLab also team. We in Digital Opportunity Trust, we work really in touch with the topic we are discussing today, which is the digital divide. And we work with different people, youth people, especially in marginalized communities. We work with women, we work with people with disabilities, and we are trying and put a lot of effort in order to bridge the gap in the digital divide. I am glad to be with you today, and I hope we what we are going to say will be will is a good information for everyone, and have a good time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Lavelle, founder of Bridging the Gap, and a core focus over the last 8 years, I've focused on youth development, specifically future skills development, on how we can prepare young people for the future and the impact of digitalization in the workplace, and particularly making sure that those with barriers to technology, education, and innovation are given opportunities to tap into their potential and contribute to global innovation. So I'm really excited to have this panel with us today. And so we're going to dive right into the conversation, because as we know, with the landscape right now, with the pandemic, the digital divide could not be more emphasized than ever before. As education becomes more and more digital, we are very made aware of all the digital gaps that we have and those that are being left behind. So my question to our panelists is, as innovation increasingly becomes digital and education as well increasingly becomes digital, what actions do we need to ensure that we have an inclusive and equal access to the technology that we need to participate in these opportunities?
Well, I will start. Something that we have realized, and when all the pandemic started, I was focusing on really creating content. I was focusing a lot on helping entrepreneurs with everything that has to do with e-commerce, because we needed, this economy to continue. And I was working a lot on creating content for education and how to shape it. But then you realize that it's not useful if it's not getting to people, because they don't have access to have a computer, a cell phone, a good internet. And before the pandemic, it was very interesting because I was working with people in the rural areas with the same problems. We don't have like the best internet. Maybe they don't have a computer, but at least they have one computer at home, or they will have one cell phone. But right now we realize that when you have a household where only the father have a cell phone, and okay, before the pandemic, he could lend it to the wife so we could educate her, or to the kids. But right now, everybody needs the device at the same time. And it's not just happening in rural areas. It's happening with people in the city, with people with means, that sometimes they have a computer for each one of the 3 kids for themselves, and then the internet is not enough. You don't have the capacity to have everybody connected to the school, to the work, to the Zoom. So it's really a big technological challenge. So from the mobile operators, and I have to say that in Central America, we have a very good coverage, but still we need to work more like communities. I think we really need to create groups. The mothers, they need to work together. In the rural areas, creating centers where people can go, and in just one computer, you can have 5 kids with the social distance and everything. But everything is not just about the technology and the device, but it's about how, as a community, we can organize ourselves in order to help each other and share the tools and share the internet and share the things that we already have. I don't know, what do you think about that?
No, I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's a really important point that we're not always aware, is especially when there is limited devices or access within a home. One thing that we're actually seeing in research as well is it's exacerbating the gender gap, because if there is only one computer, let's say, and there's multiple children in the home, we are seeing that a tendency that the computer goes to the young boy, and then the girl isn't able to access the technology she needs for her education. So it's the interconnectivity of these issues is really clear, and it just emphasizes the need to really focus on how we create accessibility. So with that being said, Sophia, do you have any further thoughts on the topic?
I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I understand what Carla was saying, and I was also going through the same issues in the pandemic was really heated up, because I worked with a lot of NGOs that I had to physically go visit these schools that are in remote areas, in the rural areas, to talk to them about technology, science, but as an academic, I couldn't do that anymore. But I still believe that the use of the limited access to internet and the digital skills that the rural areas are getting, we can still leverage whatever we have to be able to help these people have access to more digital skills. So that's what I can add on that.
So building on that, because obviously when we talk about the digital divide, we can talk about the gaps endlessly and the need to take action. But I really want to make sure this is tangible for our participants today, and we get into some practical action items that we can take to address the digital divide. So of the speakers right now in your various work portfolios, have you seen examples of how a solution to the digital divide, and would you be able to share with us some tangible strategies that you're seeing working right now, or that we should be emphasizing more with our communities to really attack this issue?
Yes, I don't know. Hassan, do you want to say something?
Yes, I want to say something about this issue, like because we are talking about digital technologies and the digital gap. As you mentioned, like the pandemic, like we see that the digital divide and the digital gap is now more clear, you know, because like we are now depend more on technology and in education and working in many fields of our life. So like I was like want to talk about I don't want to repeat the talk about what we are challenging, because like as you mentioned also, like the challenges are mostly close to each other. Like it can be different, but like we having the same challenges in most cases. Even like with the relatively low cost and high efficient digital tools like we have, but like we still have some gap, especially when we are talking about teachers and the access to the tools. You know, like in the recent years, specifically, like there was like the free and open source communities produce tools for many people, you know. And but like even till now, like a lot of people don't know how to use these tools, don't know how to access these tools. A lot of people have laptops, like we can say some or a mobile phone or a computer at their houses. There are schools that have computer labs, but they don't know how to use the technology, regardless what we can say about the equipment. Like some schools don't have internet connection, some people don't have high-speed internet connection, and especially in rural areas. This like what I want to share some experience with you, which is from our work, which like this was our goal when we started to put 21 century skills in everyone's life, you know, because this is important, especially at this time. Also, like we focus more like on our curriculum. We focus about how can we, like if we are giving training or we are teaching even for teachers, you know, like we give training for teachers in order to empower them to use the tools that they can need to help students. We focus more on the needs of each individual, the need of each community, because there are different needs also for each one. We try like recently also, like we started to digitize our curriculum, so it can be more access, like we have more access to it for people who wants to learn more like about the online tools, about the education tools. Also we hear more from youth people, from people who are working with about what problems they are facing, so we can try to fill this gap and help them as much as possible. Regardless, like maybe in Lebanon, for example, we have now we are facing the pandemic, and we also like we're facing economical crisis, for example, which is affecting a lot of people, especially when we are talking about rural areas or many communities in Lebanon who if even before the crisis, who have a problem to get the technology tools and to get the skills they need. So like there are challenges, but like we are trying as much as possible to work so no one left behind, because in the coming years we are going to depend more on technology, and this is what we need for now. That's what I want to say.
Well, I really appreciate you bringing up the emphasis on digital skills because when we look at future skills for young people, one of the key things we need to look at is digital skills. And one of the kind of stereotypes that I always like to really emphasize and kind of break the mold on is you don't only need digital skills if you're wanting to be an engineer or go into an ICT, information technology field. You need digital skills even if you want to be a designer, a marketer, etc. Knowing digital literacy in itself, whether you're talking about technology, whether you're using technology in your design and the tools, it's kind of integrated into almost every future career now, that it's essential that we do build digital literacy into our education curriculum in a way that it's not just if you're going into a technology field, but it's available to everyone. Carla, do you have any further insight into that? I know you've done a lot of advocacy work and initiatives around digital skills. Do you see is digital skills where it needs to be, or do we have some improvements that we need?
No, definitely digital skills is as important as nutrition, as it's part of our life. I would really need to have more information about it. But something that I would really like to share before jumping into that, one of the solutions that we have implemented here in Guatemala that maybe can be replicated in other countries. So there are 3 organizations that I'm working with. The first one is called FUNCEPA, and if you are interested, I can send you the links and everything, because what we're doing with FUNCEPA is asking everybody, if you have an old cell phone, if you have an old computer, because everybody had, in the drawer there, you have your own technology things. And then we have partnered with tech people and that they can like dismantle all these computers and make new ones that will work. And we are helping in different rural areas, schools, to create like labs, with computers. And because we know that in these computers there is no internet, so these computers, they come already with the content, like Khan Academy, so we know what is the age of the kids that are going to be going to these laboratories, and then that's the content that we're putting in. So there's been a huge work that has been put in place in order to create this content, translate this content, because that is another problem that we have, that there's a lot of things in English, but we have people in Guatemala, we have more than 20 dialects. So you need to translate some of the content. So to have more, it's not just internet, the device, but it's also in what language is the content. So that's another. But that's one of the things that I think we need to do more in our society, is to recycle the technology that we have. For example, when we started working with FUNCEPA here at home, I had like my very first iPad. I couldn't even use it. I couldn't run Zoom or anything because I could not even update the operative system. But they can do it. When you give these devices to people, that they can put them apart and they put them together. So that's one solution that is very easy to implement. That's what I'm talking about. Communities. Okay, who are the guys, the tech guys that can do that kind of things? And who is the people, in the private sectors that have access to all those old things that for you is junk, and then we can create new things. That's one of the solutions. Then the other solution that is a little bit hard in my heart, but we have to do it, is that we hand-pick young women to be leaders. So we cannot educate, we cannot give access to all of them. But if you choose the one that can really become leaders, that they have the people that surround them, that their parents are going to work with them, then we fundraise and we buy tablets and we pay for the internet for them. Of course, sometimes we have people saying, okay, if you're going to give me a tablet, I have 2 daughters, I need for both of them. But we do a lot of, they have to pass tests, their emotional intelligence, we do a lot of things, and if we have to choose only one, we choose only one. So that's hard sometimes for our sponsors, because they say, no, you have to help all the kids in that community. But we say we need to invest, because the resources are not like endless. So we really need to invest that tablet that you're having access and the internet that you're going to be paying for, that we give it to young women that really have the opportunity, and the family is very important. We sign the contract with the parents. If they don't have parents supporting them, it's better to support another girl that have them, because then she's going to become a leader that can help the community. So that's been a program that we're trying, and it's been very successful. That it's something that in Guatemala, it's been done by Plan International Plan, if you want to research it. And Vital Voices is another organization with a lot of best practices on helping women entrepreneurs in order to have access to education and to all the resources that you need.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you bringing that up, especially Vital Voices has an initiative around We Empower. For any young women who are watching right now, We Empower is a business challenge that it can actually give you funding as well. So really great solution. And I like how you're giving some tangible solutions for us. Sophia, do you have any examples within the area that you're working on how technology and innovation is being creatively applied to solve some of these gaps that we're seeing?
Yes, I would just like to add on the digital literacy discussion. As part of the Tanzania, we conducted the summit last year, where we visited university students around different regions. And after we did the summit, we had partnered with different stakeholders in the ICT sector. And we had gotten the opportunity to speak to these university students about how they can leverage the use of technology and how they can integrate digital skills in whatever they're doing. As you said, Kelly, you don't have to use digital skills just because you're an engineer or you're in the ICT field. You can use digital skills in whatever field that you're doing. So after the summit, a lot of the university students were coming to us and they were telling us that this is new to us. We didn't know that you can integrate innovation skills in the various areas that we're in. So there's clearly a gap, and initiatives such as these youth digital summits that organizations such as DOT that are doing are actually making a change. So things like these need to be leveraged even more. Partnerships between stakeholders, visiting people in the rural areas, or even the people that are living in the urban areas but have limited or restricted access to all of these information.
So building upon that, we have a really great question coming in from some of our participants in the chat, and really around the pace of technology advancement and the real-time usage, particularly in communities in the global south. The question from Jeffrey is, are there solutions to ensure that youth all over the world are on par with each other? So how can we make sure that youth can keep up with their peers and they're not disproportionately held back in their own development?
Well, that's a very easy question, and that's something that had existed before the internet. You know, we talk about homeschooling, and we say, now I'm doing homeschooling because we are taking charge of the education of our kids. But all the information is out there. So even if you don't have internet at home, you can go to a place where you can go to a McDonald's, to a Starbucks, any place where you have internet, and download all the curriculum for doing homeschooling with your kids, because you can do everything offline. That is something that existed before the pandemic. There are completely a lot of communities, you know, of parents that have decided they wanted to do homeschooling, and everybody was looking at them like weirdos, you know, this is so, kids need to be social and they need, but there's a lot of people that have chosen that path before the pandemic. So I will follow that example of going to a place where you have access to internet, have access to a printer, and just print the things. You know, for kids, that is even better, because they don't learn on the computer. They learn when they're painting, when they're doing things with their hands, when they have a pencil, when they have paper, they learn more. So it's just having, as parents, we need to take that. Maybe sometimes in Guatemala, people, they need to walk in order to go to the mairie. There's always, at your public administration building, there's always internet, there's always computers and a printer when you can go spend 1-2 hours and you research, homeschool education for my 6-year-old, and you will have everything is printable. So that's the solution that I would do for rural areas, but it needs really the will of the parents to really go and do that, and the time, because we're working. So of course it's always going to be hard, but there's solutions.
Well, just building upon that right now, just to emphasize for those who are creating curriculum and programs, I think that's really important to keep in mind as an organization, as a program curator as well, that we're creating programs and educational courses that are available offline or can be printer friendly, and creating worksheets that can apply to that. Because if we focus just on digital first and digital only, then we're leaving out a large proportion of our populations and exacerbating these educational gaps even further. So thank you, Carla. I think that's a really good point for everyone to consider, whether you're on the receiving end or on the creation end.
Just one thing that I would like to add to this idea of doing your own curriculum and everything: look for a community. Look for people that have already been doing that, because what is difficult is to navigate the internet. There's so many information. So look for real people that can help you. Look for mentors and people that are doing already that, so they can guide you.
So with that being said, I want to throw in some emerging technologies into these conversations, because I'm sure a lot of youth may have some of these technologies in mind. We see things like blockchain. We hear these buzzwords like blockchain, NFTs, all these different things. I would love to hear the panel's perspective on how some of these rapidly evolving emerging technologies, which in a lot of ways create opportunities where if you don't have tech backgrounds, that you can still participate and use technology and innovation, how you think that's going to change the landscape, and if you see that in a positively changing it, or are there negative impacts that we should be aware of?
I really think that everything that has to do with new technologies, it always comes with the good and the bad, the pro and the cons. Remember the first time, years ago, decades ago, when they invented the print machine, and everybody was so afraid because they said, imagine if everybody can print a book and everybody can print their ideas. That would be so awful. That was the same thing when we started having the first blogs, and everybody was like, so I don't have to be a programmer in order to have like a website, and I can put my ideas out there. And there was like people saying, this is outrageous, you cannot give that power to people. So you will always have these. And of course, we've seen people using all these powers of building a website for bad, like people that are doing pornography and pedophiles. So you will always have people that manage to use technology to do bad things, and people, that manage to use technology to change the world. But in my eyes, all these new technologies, Bitcoins, all that, it's such huge opportunity to find new jobs, new ways of doing things, new industries. So we should keep our eyes open to always take a look at that new thing and thinking, what can I solve? What problems can I solve with this? What good in the world can I do with this new technology?
And to just demystify some of these emerging technologies for youth, if they're hearing these words and they seem like this really intense thing, one of the key advantages of some of these emerging technologies is that they're actually lowering the barrier to entry into innovation and ICT or technology fields. Because, for instance, a really great example from one of Bridging the Gap's partners is Metaverse, where they've created an engine for you to be able to create 3D, 360 graphics and elements in the web, 360 web, without actually needing coding skills. So these technologies are actually lowering the barrier, where you don't necessarily need an engineering degree to be able to technologies. Blockchain is very similar. You don't necessarily some of these things are very plug and play. What you need to do is educate yourself enough to know how to use the item and what the applications or benefits of the tools are. But I want to just kind of emphasize for anyone who's curious about emerging technologies is if you read about it and stay abreast of what's there, there's a lot of opportunities for you to enter into these markets and use it within your projects earlier on than what you may be thinking. Hazan, I want to just kind of connect back with you to see if you have any further comments to add into the dialogue. I know we've touched on a couple items, so I'd love to hear your feedback.
Yes, I would like to share something. Like when Carla was talking, I remembered a personal experience actually. When when computers start, we started to learn about there is something called computer, you know, like people was afraid this tool or this machine will be distract our children from education. They will distract them from being socializing and a lot of things. Like I remember the first time, for example, that my father bought me the computer, which was old, like comparing to today's computer, it's nothing actually. For little example, it was a 20 giga hard disk only. Now, we have mobile phones with a lot of space. But what I want to say is it was great helpful to me. I started to use it in my education, you know, to learn new skills. Even I started to learn programming by myself at that time. And I started to work from my house using this computer, and I was only 15 years old, and start to get some pocket money for myself. It was to learn more skills. But what I always tell youth people and tell my friend is that you need to learn these skills and how can you use these skills in order to be innovators. That's the first thing. Also, how to know how it can help you in your daily life, because it can really make your life easy. And in addition to all of this, I want to say in our programs, for example, we always focus about how they can apply these skills in order to be not only empowered and we learn about the skills, know how to use these skills. And recently, we are talking a lot about digital citizenship, which is an important concept today. You know, this is an important thing we need to reach today. We need to be digital citizens in a digital world we are living today. That's what I want to add.
And so building upon that, what does it mean to you to be a digital citizen? It's really interesting, actually, because there was this comparison prior around how society evolves through time and how we started living on farms and agriculture, and then we moved into cities. And now, particularly with the shift through the pandemic, we literally now live in a digital world. All our interactions are through the digital ecosystem, right? We make purchases through it. We meet people through it. We literally are living in our computers in a lot of sense. So I'm really curious to hear the panel's perspective on what being a digital citizen means and where you think it will be evolving.
You know, this is not an abstract content anymore. It's something that you can research, and there are 8 concepts that you really need to manage in order to be a good digital citizen. So the first one is that you need to really be very conscious that you have a digital identity. It's not just your personal brand, it's your identity. I'm a person that have these values, I care about it. It's not I am going to use my social media to say that I'm a designer. That's your personal brand. Digital identity is everything that you project in order to say, I care about this, I want to say this, these are my values. That's the first one. Then to really understand what is privacy. There is a lot of people, I don't know if you've ever seen people that said they post on Facebook, dear Facebook, I don't give you permission to have my content. My pictures are mine. It's if you're not paying for the content, you are the content. So understanding what does that mean when you're using digital platforms that you're not paying for, with what are you paying, with your data, what does that mean? That's the second one. The third one is critical thinking. That is not something that you're going to wake up and suddenly you're going to be thinking with critically. You have to do exercises every single week. This has to be part of the curriculum at every single school. That's something that I teach parents to do with their kids at all ages. You have to do it at home, is to relearn how to think. If you're watching a movie, you're watching Spider-Man, but why the bad guy became the bad guy? What is the movie really telling us? And it's a whole conversation. So critical thinking, how to spot fake news, deep fakes, all that is very, very important. One of my favorites, and that's the fourth one, is digital empathy. Is to really, really, really respect the opinion of everybody, even when you don't agree. Like with controversial things like abortion, and there's people that is pro-choice, people is like pro-life, and they're fighting, and there's like, what, oh my God, you're killing a baby. And that became so, you need to respect everybody. Even if you never, ever, ever be able to do an abortion, you need to respect somebody that needs to do it. And that's something, that's a skill that you need to develop. Something that I would like everybody to research a little bit is the empathy map canvas. It's a methodology that we all need to learn. And then the other one is cybersecurity, to know, how to create a password, how to move within with security in all the internet. The other one is cyberbullying, to really know, okay, am I being attacked? What do I do? Can I see that being a standard? But most importantly, and nobody talks about it, is the silent cyberbullying. And that's the one that we do to ourselves every single day when we're following movie stars and top models and women with perfect body, perfect hair. And then in our subconscious, we're saying to ourselves, you're a loser because you don't look like that. And of course, people say, no, I know it's not like that, but you're damaging your brain. And that's the last one. And one of the most important of being a digital citizen is using technology in a way that is healthy for your body. That is called digital well-being. Knowing how much time you spend, knowing that you are segregating dopamine, oxytocin, you're segregating chemicals in your brain each time that you're connected, and that is having an impact in your body. So what is happening there? So being able to know all these concepts and what to do it and how to practice and how to develop these skills, that's digital citizenship.
Thank you, Carla. Oh my gosh, so many nuggets of wisdom in there and real truths that we need to hear. I just want to emphasize and reiterate some of them as a reminder for some of our audience, because you touched on some really important gems there to apply into our lives, especially during this time when we're spending so much time online. The first that I really want to emphasize there is nothing is ever free. When you get a free app, when you get any technology that's free, as Carla mentioned, you're paying with your data. So really kind of getting that in your mindset so you can be more selective and intentional in terms of what you're opting in and selling your data to and what communities you really want to be a part of. That's a really important point, because I think we don't necessarily see that all the time, and unless something comes out of it. The second piece that you really mentioned on there is around social and the subconscious element around cyberbullying that we can do to ourselves who we follow. So I really want to challenge everyone who's participating in the session right now. Today, this is your homework for the session. Go on your social feed and take a critical look at who you're following, particularly using the method. There's this method that I know is really big in like the organization space of like looking at the method where like if you have an item, seeing if it brings joy to you or not, and then taking it away. Well, apply that to your social feed. When you're looking at those who are in your feed, are they making you feel good, the posts that you're seeing, or not? And start to intentionally curate your feed to bring more positive people and posts into your feed. I know I've done that as a process where I unfollowed everyone and then started to intentionally just follow motivational people and ones that really uplifted me, rather than, as Carla mentioned, made me feel as if I was not perfect as I was, and really kind of always posting negative things. So who you surround yourself is a tried and true that everyone tells you for success, is you surround yourself with people that uplift you and bring you to the success. But that relates also to your digital spheres just as much as the physical people in your lives. So being intentional And maybe your homework is to unfollow 3 accounts that negatively affect you or make you feel not so great when you see their posts. I think that would be a really cool takeaway from today's session. And then the elements, you touched on so many, but I want to really emphasize also the empathy component, because we're moving into an area and globally where our world is very polarized. And in this polarized world, it's very easy to pick a side and then to reject the other side and really kind of put up front. And what that does is it actually creates barriers and inhibits individuals from actually being authentic online and posting who they are and what they care about, because now we create this atmosphere where we have a fear of not just rejection but retaliation. And because of that, we're not having the constructive conversations we need. And as a result, we get into hive mind or group think, because then everyone we follow or anyone in our post, we're not actually getting a secondary perspective from where we're coming from. So what we're doing then is actually strengthening inherent bias. And so we really do need to create an environment where you can have constructive conversations. You don't have to agree to be able to have a conversation. That's not arguing, it's not attacking, all because someone has a different opinion than you. And I think the more we can bring peace leaders and emerging future leaders to be able to hold space for dialogue and conversation, particularly when there's going to be views that are different than our own, we can expand our perspectives and really find harmony. Because if we just polarize and just say, I'm right, you're wrong, we're never going to find understanding and be able to come up with solutions to many of the global challenges. So Carla, thank you so much for emphasizing some of these key points. Sophia, in your experience with technology innovation and so on, do you see any of these practices or gaps emerging in the work that you're doing? And have you found any solutions or techniques that have worked in terms of addressing them?
I am really sorry to interrupt you, but we have a question from the YouTube comment section. Can I ask it now?
Oh, that'd be lovely. Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have a question on the YouTube comment section that can you please repeat the online tool you just said regarding the digital empathy?
Is the digital map canvas. You just have to Google it like that. Digital map canvas. It's a methodology that helps you understand other people. Even if you think that Superman is the best superhero and you have a friend that thinks that it is Iron Man, do it as an exercise and then you will see it's just amazing. Digital map canvas.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions while we're discussing that? We can take a break and see if there's any questions.
We have some other questions. So you want to take it now, or you can take it later as well?
We can certainly add in some questions now. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat or questions, so if one of my fellow speakers is able to voice it, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Okay, let me read one for you. It's from Hannah. It's written that what are the realistic strategies that work for students and people in rural areas who want to learn or gain information and do not have access to internet or even digital devices? In your country, maybe this question goes to a speaker that comes from a country that has more internet availability or is more developed.
Hassan, do you have any feedback for that?
Actually, like I was like thinking about it. Like I live actually like in some you can say rural area where like we don't have that internet and we don't have a lot of people with digital devices. The solution is not easy, as Carla mentioned before. Like it is not only like work of one person, you know, like it can be like work of many organizations, many people who are like have influence in the community itself. One of solutions that like we worked on once like is if someone who is live in some privileged area, like he have like extra device, or like have a device that he don't use anymore, like he can donate it. So like we can other people who don't have access to that technology device can use it. Also, one or other solutions is that in public libraries, like in many areas, maybe like in maybe in the municipality, in some areas, like there are rooms, there are some space. So like we can put these devices in the library or in the municipality, so and make it public to people. So especially students and parents who can came at any time and use it. There is no easy solution, because some solutions are like based on what the government need to do in some areas, for example, like the structure and how like we can make people reach to fast internet, for example. But like there are some trials we can do, some initiatives we can do. That's what I think.
One thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if anyone has seen this applied in their practice, the use of radio. So some really interesting stats have been brought forward lately to me around the fact that, for instance, unlike Wi-Fi, which has bandwidth issues, because we talked about it earlier in the conversation, where if you have multiple devices on Wi-Fi in a house, then that creates an issue. Where radio, for instance, you can have literally the entire world on it, but the bandwidth doesn't change. Do you see the use of radio at all re-emerging? It's one of those things that I think our generation sees it like, oh, radio's so passe, like it's being replaced by technology. But do we see a rebirth of it coming where it's creating more accessibility?
Yes, in Guatemala, there is a big project on education through radio in rural areas, and it's working very well.
Perfect. Are there any other questions that we want to bring forward?
See a comment from Diana. She wrote that I have seen interesting approaches in Rwanda. The government partnered with the Rwanda to invest in mobile digital buses that would move across the village doing training on digital skills. Also, not just looking at smartphones, but basic phones uses as well to increase, for example, financial inclusion through mobile money, etc.
Perfect. So with that being said, talking about technologies and so on, one of the things I want to talk about is actually where do we see web versus smartphones? So for instance, one thing is more people in the world have access to a smartphone than they do a desktop and web. So do you feel that we should be creating more solutions that are smartphone or mobile friendly versus, or should we be really focusing a lot on web-based delivery of programs?
Everything has to be mobile first, and that is something that is not now. I think it's a trend that started almost 7 years ago, and it really everything that you do it on your mobile. Of course, the ones that are privileged enough that they can sit behind a computer, we're talking really about the 50% of the population when you talk globally, including everybody. So of course, everything that we do, especially when we are creating educational content, we have to do it mobile first.
So just kind of summarizing some of the points over the course of our session for those who might be joining in midway and things like that, a key component that we talked about first was when we're designing educational programs and solutions, one is to think about offline applications. So when you're designing your program, to consider, are elements of your program able to be downloaded in one batch at a library or something that someone can do offline? Do you have printable resources that people can do if they don't have access, so that they can find a printer at a communal space, that they can still get access to your computer, to your materials, books and materials like that? Are we considering those elements as opposed to just doing digital first and digital only solutions? Are we considering that 50% of the population has difficulty accessing your digital first solution? And what are you doing to make sure that you're including them? We then talked about alternative ways of delivering education or solutions around distributing old technologies or sharing and basically enhancing access to the devices themselves, but also creative uses of radio and mobile kind of mini bus schools and so on that can really create environments that can bring education to those who are disconnected. And then, as Carla mentioned, as a last piece, when you are doing the digital component, making sure it's mobile first. I want to emphasize that because although it seems intuitive, a lot of solutions still tend to be web-based solutions, and which create more difficulty, both in bandwidth and accessibility and experience itself when someone's accessing it only through their phone. So for those of you who are interested in ed tech solutions and are working within this space, I think those are a couple key considerations that you want to keep in mind when building your solution. So we have one question from our YouTube streamers, from Jeffrey, around internet bias limits and the space for constructive arguments that will offer a chance for diverse and divergent views to be expressed and solutions found. So really this is touching on the empathy conversation that we were having, Carla, and the empathy map that you were discussing earlier. The question is, how can you champion empathy in a polarized online world? So how can we constructively start to move the needle on this when you feel so much pressure, and I would say in a lot of sense almost that heightened fear of judgment and being attacked if they have different views? How can we create spaces for safe and constructive dialogue?
We definitely need to train ourselves in the offline world, because when we're having a conversation, it's not just about what we say, it's about our energy, it's about our body language, because sometimes you're disagreeing with somebody, and if I say it just right now through the Zoom, you cannot really feel that I'm being respectful, but I'm not disagreeing, but if you're here with me, then I can feel that you are maybe upset about what I'm saying, and I can lower my tone or change it. So when you train yourself in the real world, having conversations, putting yourself out there, there's another exercise that is called the empathy circles. You can Google how to do an empathy circle. And it's like yourself, like once a week, try to look for controversial topics and with people that you can have this conversation. That's something that you can do with your family at home, because then you're going to be trained in order to feel, in order to read the people in front of you that maybe they're uncomfortable, maybe you need to change your wording, maybe as we do with kids, and that's something that you need to develop. That's like a muscle that you need to develop this skill. When you are good in the real world, then you can transpolate this power to the virtual world where you don't have all these feelings and you can sense, and the energy, even the heat, you cannot feel all that. So you need to be trained in the real world. That is very, very important.
Empathy circles, that's a really great technique, and I'm really glad that you bring that up, because it's something that we can all practice. Like you said, you can do it right within your home. And I would even just emphasize, even before you get to the circle component, where you might do it with a group of individuals, even just purposely looking for a news topic and looking to read the opposite side and consider the opposite perspective. So take a polarized topic, and even if you seem one way, try and understand where the other party is coming from that sees differently on the topic. And I think even just practicing that and reading more. Reading is, I think, sometimes highly underestimated with our demographic. I had one of the best techniques when we were doing a leadership conversation around how do you, especially for young people, on like how they can accelerate their career and be taken seriously around in the workplace and different things, is actually the key. It's so simple. It's actually just to be well read. You would be surprised of how very few people actually read and are knowledgeable on whether it's the science, the economics, the background of whatever issue that they're talking about. So if you take the time just to educate yourself on a specific issue, you can practice that empathy even on your own if you don't necessarily have the circle. But circle is a really great way. With that being said, it looks like we have a couple other questions from the YouTube, and those are the questions that I can see at the moment because I can't see internally. So one question was around, do you have any comments on promoting eye health, posture, wrist health, etc., that might be byproducts of our digital first, digital citizen lifestyle?
Yeah, this is something that we all, it is like a must. If you are privileged enough to have access to a smartphone, to a wrist phone or whatever, you own to yourself to research a little bit about digital health. You know, there's a lot that every cell phone, they comes with the, applications in order to limit the time that you spend in different applications. And we think that's something for kids. That's so that you can limit the time for the YouTube or how much time they're playing Fortnite. It's not for just for the kids. It's for. So try to really make an agenda, organize your day, and say, okay, today I cannot spend. And you have like a graphic that tells you how much you're spending on Facebook or Instagram or Netflix. And then when you see that, you will see how much time you are like procrastinating sometimes. So try to put it on your cell phone, on your iPad, computer, set time. So for WhatsApp, just going to answer all my messages in half an hour. You know, I've become more productive because before I could be zooming, you know, on WhatsApp and reading messages. But since I started doing that, I knew I use an hour for my WhatsApp, and I'm like, you know, and I'm answering, I'm like doing it. I try to be more focused and more productive. And that's been a very good thing, because it's not good to be connected all the time. There's a lot of studies, and that a lot of people, they think this is for the kids, but it's for everybody. So we need to research digital detox. That's another thing that is called
yes, digital detox. Oh my gosh, I'm a huge champion of that. That is something that I've been practicing, and it's done incredible wonders in terms of stress level. Digital detox, when you can spend a day without being on your phone or email, and you can choose the level of digital detox. It could be like just not on email and work. It could be not on social media, or it could be completely not on your phone at all. But the key to your digital detox is you cannot go on for one thing. So I've done this before where it's like, oh, I'll do a digital detox. And just like, okay, but I'm just going to quickly check for one thing. You break the mental break that you're trying to create, even if you go on for one thing. You really have to do it where you create that dedicated space. Another thing that Carla just mentioned was focus blocks. So that's a really good productivity tip. And something that you'll hear on this leadership success in general is, remember that there's a difference between being busy and being productive. You don't want busy days. You want productive days. And productive days may mean that you're actually working less or doing less, but you're doing it more effectively than just spending in hours of your time. And the focus blocks are really great for things, as Carla mentioned, like emails. Instead of doing emails throughout the day, you'll find that it's like a time sucker or time vampire. It just kind of takes all your time. But if you dedicate like your hour and you do it maybe, or if you have a lot of emails, maybe you do morning and at end of the day, whatever works best for you. But if you do dedicated blocks of time rather than seeping away endlessly on the different apps and technologies, you'll be able to take your time back. So some really tangible, practical tips here in the session. I really appreciate some of that insight. Hassan, do you have any digital well-being, digital hacks that you like to use in your life and work style?
I would like to add something to what you were saying. Is like, you know, when you are using technology, it's important like to remember that our daily life skills, like the communication skill, time management skill, these skills that we need in our daily life are important also when we are using technology. So like if we was talking about empathy. So when we talk about empathy, it's important like to have a communication skill in our daily life, face to face. So we can have this also online. Some people don't see it in this way. Some people think that online is just like a virtual, not real world. So like what we can say whatever we want, but it is not this is not the situation. Also, like the time management skills, like as you was mentioning, like you don't want to be sucked inside the technology. Like you cannot like spend all of your life behind the screen. There are like a lot of things that we need to teach, like to our children, to our students, to our friends, to our families when they start to use technology. So like I think this is important issue, like and we need like to learn and teach people about it.
With that being said, I want to create a space because we talked about open dialogue. Can we create a space for our youth participants to join into the conversation? So I know we have some questions in the chat, and you can also come on video as well. So I'm going to pass it over to some of my fellow speakers because I unfortunately don't have access to the platform, so I can't see anyone. If you're able to help voice them.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay. There is a question for Sophia. Explicit protection of women as they are most affected. Sophia, as a woman in STEM, what challenges do you see women facing?
I would like to begin with just the general perception of people thinking that women in STEM can't hold higher position in companies. So I work in a male-dominated field. I'm an engineer at Vodacom Tanzania, and out of the 55 people that are in the network department, there's probably less than 10 women in the department. So the biggest challenge that I see in my field is the perception of a lot of people in the community thinking that women can't hold managerial positions. Also because women have a lot of responsibilities on their plate. So it's a bit difficult to balance between work, life, and home, managing everything at home. So that's one of the biggest challenges. And I just feel like it's upon the community to change their perception about how they see women, especially because now things are rapidly changing. Women, not only in the STEM field, in other fields as well, are holding great positions in our country. Like recently in our country, in Tanzania, we now have a woman president, which is kind of a big deal, which is the first. So it all begins with the community. And I believe that if the community changes the perception of how they see women and that women are able to do great things, I believe we can actually solve the gender digital divide that's existing, not only when it comes to digital skills, but also in an industry such as mine. So that's one of the challenges that I can say that women in my field are facing. And I feel like it's one of the biggest challenges. And if I feel like that is tackled, we can solve a lot of issues that are going on, especially having less number of women in the STEM field.
Okay, there is another question from Shireen. How can we introduce digital devices while still being environmentally friendly?
I think there's a compromise that we have to do, like with everything in life, and you have to offset your digital footprint. So if you're gonna be, it's all about information. If you have to know, okay, what is the damage that I'm doing to the environment with my cell phone and my computer and the electricity that I'm using, and because yesterday I forgot to unplug everything. Okay, there are, but when you have access to these, you have access also to opportunity. So maybe you can have access to your phone or your computer and the internet and try to offset, try to use less plastic, eat less meat, and try to do things like that. That's what I personally do.
All I have in the question box. If I get any more question, I will interrupt again. Kelly, over to you.
Okay, perfect. Well, for those who are watching, if you do have questions, feel free to put it into the chat box so we can include you. We want you to be a part of this conversation, whether you're watching internally or on YouTube. Feel free to drop it in. Also, I want to just remind everyone who's listening to this session, if you haven't already and you're enjoying some of the topics today, use the hashtag #YouthMobilize and we are Bridging the Gap, and tag us in your comments so we can share and continue this dialogue off after the session as well. I'm sure many of the speakers would be pleased to connect with you and be able to share your comments and or respond as well. And just as a note, because we're talking about the digital divide and accessibility, one thing to note is you have the access today to this session because you have access to the right technology and the right internet. And also you've been selected as one of the delegates for the summit. So using that power and that access, a responsibility that you have is to share what you learn with your peers who are not part of this circle right now, who are not part of this session. And one way that you can do so is by posting on social media your takeaways, but consider also those who may not have technology and maybe have a discussion, talk about some of those in-person applications that Carla was mentioning, maybe host an empathy circle as a first step. But I think that's really important just to think, how can we take action items off of this session and make sure we're not just talking about the change that we need, but we're talking about practical action items that we can implement into our own lives, of which our speakers today have given you quite a few during this session. Everything from looking at your social media and doing something for your own digital well-being and health, to seeing how we can create safe digital spaces to have constructive, empathetic dialogue and really start to bring harmony to what is a very polarized world right now. So I hope you're taking some of these takeaways and are able to implement it into your own life. Want to pass it over to our speakers. If you have any further thoughts to build on some of these topics, we can dig deeper into a couple items. We've touched so much. I want to kind of give the opportunity to the speakers to see if there's a specific area that you feel we should dive deeper into.
Well, building on your call to action and sharing or having a discussion around it, I would say to the people that they have the privilege, to have access to internet and everything. If they can start, any fundraising campaign, go to GoFundMe, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, or start fundraising so that you can maybe buy some digital devices. Try to work with organization in your community, because there are organizations working with people, especially in rural areas where there is the less access to all these beautiful tools that we can use, and we take it for granted. So I always say that if we have this privilege, if we are enjoying, just having the time, being here, we can have the internet, we have this. If you can share one cell phone or one iPad to somebody in need, you will be making a huge. Sometimes we think, but there are millions of people without access. What am I going to do if I give just one computer? But just with one computer, really, you're changing the world. So really, I really like your call to action. It has to be shared information, make discussions, but also if you can make a donation and organize and recycle. We need to recycle all the old technology because everything is useful.
Thank you, Carla. I really appreciate it. And I think it would be great to just go around for each of our speakers. So Hassan, do you have any key takeaways or things you would like to add?
Like a few days ago, I was reading about the pandemic, and like we are now switching online fastly, and people some people are like having headache from all of these things. What I want to say here also, I want to add something, which is that Daniel's generation, which is was between 1975 and 1985. This is generation witnessed also an transformation during this time, where also with economic crisis, everything was different. but like these people see and witnessed how the world transforming from many tasks. We can say like you can say accounts like they are transformed into now computer. Like computer is emerging, technology is emerging. What at that time? So like we also can be benefited from their experience, and we can have this topic like as kind of intergenerational partnerships, you know, which is an important thing, I believe.
Yes, intergenerational. I'm really glad that you brought that up. We didn't touch on it as much in this conversation yet, but I think that's really key when we're looking at bridging opportunity gaps, is making sure that it's not just one generation or another, that we're really creating spaces for reverse mentorship and peer mentorship, where we have leaders of the present and the future together to co-create solutions. And that's a key element that we really focus on, is around making sure that you don't just have a voice in or a token in a conversation, but how do we create spaces where they're contributing their ideas and their solutions are recognized. With that being said, I know we have many young people watching the session right now, and I want to just invite them, if there are any courageous souls that would like to actually join and raise their hand and ask a question specifically for our panelists, we do have some time to do that. So I just want to remind everyone, you can also just drop it in the chat if you don't want to come into the conversation. But if you do have questions, we want to hear from you and make sure that you're part of this conversation as well. So this is your invitation. If you were thinking about it but weren't sure to post your comment or raise your hand, please, we would welcome you to join the conversation.
There is a question from Hafiz. He wrote, "Hi, how do you think we can overcome the stigma against technology in some communities, especially in the elderly people?"
Do any of our speakers want to take that question?
Yeah, I think that we go back to the fact of community, because and I love what you were saying about mentoring, you know, is an inverse mentoring, because we always have this idea that is the elderly people that is older than us, that are the ones that can be mentors, that are teaching us, because in everything that has to do with technology, and we've seen that now because of the pandemic, I've seen, and I'm very happy to say that there's a lot of elderly that was the only way they could buy their food, they could have access to different things that has to be delivered at their homes. That was the only way of communicating. So even I've seen it in my family, I've seen it in the community. I remember before, when I was doing conferences, I would almost never have elderly people joining, and now I can tell you that there's a lot of people, and sometimes you can see that they have difficulties, they don't know how to mute the camera, but they're there, they've been present, and that's something that they are enjoying. But I really think that we need just this, you know, help a little bit of being part of a community. I'm always talking to going back to work as a community, to look for people that are like-minded, that we can really build things together, because this is the first step. Social media and all these social networks, that is just the tool, but the network is us, it's real people, and we need to connect with other real people locally. Of course, it's great that we don't have boundaries. Look at what we're doing today, it's just amazing. But if you can create something where you have your community of mothers, your community of women entrepreneurs, your best friends, you know, the people that they don't understand technology, just as you don't, then look for them, and then you can build things together.
I can see someone who has raised her hand. Can we take her on stage?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just give me a moment.
While we're waiting on that, one of the questions that came from the YouTube was around if there's any online tools or apps in particular that could help with advocating for in the endeavor of advocacy for rural communities and peri-urban youth. So are there any good tools right now or apps that are good for advocacy for these topics?
Well, I think we can make another hour-long conference just about how to use a social media for advocacy, because I wouldn't say that there's just one tool. There is like a strategy, it's how can you use your personal brand? How can you use the trust? The first thing that you need to, in order to be a good advocate, is to people to know who you are, to respect you, and to trust you. That's the first part. So if you work on that, it doesn't matter what tool you're going to be using, because people is going to be following you. People follows other people. It's not, don't believe that they're going to tell you, now we have this new platform, and then it doesn't, because what is going to make successful that platform is the people behind. So what I would highly recommend, if you really feel that need to be an advocate, work on your personal brand, be very clear about who you are and what is the legacy that you want to really live in the world. Work around that, build a community again, and become a respected and loved persona in your community, because then you can advocate for anything.
She couldn't join the video. There is another question from Kathy. She asked, social media allows anyone to spread false information on big topics like COVID-19. What are your thoughts on this?
I feel very strongly about everything that has to do with fake news, deep fake, and all about that. And I think that it is our obligation as digital user, all of us, to train ourselves, to train our critical thinking skills. And that's something that you have to do on a weekly basis. So if you can go online, go to Google, and just write how to spot fake news, because there is a training. There are certain things that you have to look at. The first one, you always, when somebody is sending something to you, you have to check the URL and to see if that's really coming from CNN, or is that CNN.gt, like if there is CNN in Guatemala, it doesn't. So you really have, and then your brain is going to quickly do like that. And there is some kind of the design of the page. There are some things that you need to spot in order to just know, is this real or not? It happens a lot of messaging. This WhatsApp is widely used in Latin America. And in WhatsApp, you're not sending the links, you're sending images. And I remember for COVID, it was at the beginning of COVID, and I remember there was a mother, it was a chat for mothers, and there was one of them sending a GPF saying that the World Health Organization said that masks were bad for the health of the kids because they couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh my God. But of course, I'm trained. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe something that is just sent. Where is the link? And I went to the World Organization website, and I was contacting people and saying, and I send them that. And of course, but you have to do that work. It took me like 3 hours of my time in order to go back to the chat and said, guys, this is not true. But this is our obligation. That's why I always said we have to go from digital users that we believe whatever and we just reshare and we are not even sure, to be digital leaders. When we are a digital leader, we really are trained and we care, and we never share anything that we haven't completely read. I wouldn't be saying, go and watch the documentary on the social dilemma if I haven't watched it completely. So that's really an obligation that we have to be more accurate about that.
And just building on that as well, also to teach your parents, your grandparents, your siblings that same methodology. To be honest with you, right now, some of the most vulnerable demographic right now are actually more your 50 plus demographic, because they are not exposed to as much of the fake news generation as much as youth growing up with it. So if you are a young person, you're abreast of these issues, one thing that you can do to make a huge difference is actually teaching it to those in your household and your neighbors in your community to, again, stop that fake news, especially because they'll spread it on Facebook and that can really perpetuate things. So really appreciate you reminding us on some of those keys. To do our due diligence, the most important thing is always look at the source, where it's coming from, who's funding it. All of those types of things will really give you insight in terms of the perspective and the narrative that is supposed to be shaping. And that gives you an idea of of the perspective that on the topic as well. And then practicing empathy circles. So when we do have these types of topics that could be controversial, or there are news sources that are always going to be stem to one side of the argument or one side of the perspective. So having empathy circles who believe in the other source and seeing why they believe in that can be a really great practice for you to make sure that you're not getting into groupthink and you really are thinking for yourself and know what's your truth. Truth is a subjective concept. It has to do, everyone has their own version of truth, and it really comes down to your morals, your perspectives, and your beliefs, and the education or knowledge, the information that you're given. So ignorance can always be solved through education, and you all have the ability to be that educator for those in your communities. Do we have any other questions?
On the chat, I just posted 3 links to some articles about how to spot fake news that are really, really useful if you want to research a little bit more and learn more about how to do it. Because it's not something that is going to come naturally, like, okay, I care, I don't want to spread fake news. You need to be trained on how to spot them.
Yes. And it's really great. I'm glad that this question was brought up because it's actually a topic, we could have an entire other session probably on this specific topic, but one that I think is so necessary and relevant for our generation. So thank you for bringing up this question, and Carla for dropping in some of those resources. Really helpful there, and hopefully we can extend and continue this conversation. So if this topic interests you, drop it also in the chat so you let the Global Youth Mobilization organizers know so we can do more programming perhaps and do a deep dive into some of these topics. Whether we talked about advocacy on social media or fake news, these are all key topics that we could build out additional sessions on. We have about 5 more minutes. I just want to open it up for anyone who's participating. If you have anything else that we haven't covered yet that you would like, or a burning question that you would like to ask one of our speakers, please drop it in the chat or raise your hand so we can include you in the conversation. If we don't have any,
we have a question. Yeah, Zion asked that knowing that during the pandemic there was a large amount of fake news, sexual exploitation, and racial degradation going on social media platforms, and most of the time go unpunished by the platforms, what can we use as consumers to do that?
That's a really brilliant question. I just want to acknowledge the hard-hitting questions that our participants are giving. I really appreciate you're keeping our speakers on their toes, but really meaningful questions. So thank you.
I always say that we as consumers, we have much, much power than we think. We are the ones that really have the pan by the handle, but we don't know what to do about it. So when you found an account, when you found somebody, you have to report it. You have to share with other people that the content that is coming from that account is not good. If we all together, we open our eyes and we work together as a community, then it's easier to tackle these problems.
Yeah,
okay.
I would just build on that, on the peer pressure component, and the fact that when you let a comment go, that in itself is almost silent approval. So I think one practice right away is when you see a comment that someone does that's bullying, that's racist, that's discrimination, and so on, what you should do, and you can call them out in a nice way. You don't need to be you don't need to fully attack them, but you can directly acknowledge that comment's inappropriate and that it's unnecessary. And when you do that, you open the door for others to agree and not approve upon it. Because otherwise, what you do is you just let it happen. You're perpetuating the issue. So I would say, understand your voice matters and use it. That's one of the greatest tools you have. Sorry, Sophia, I think you were saying something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, sorry, I thought I heard you.
there is a question on the YouTube section that who can we share digital solution ideas so that they could consider bringing it to life?
I think that anybody can bring to life something when you really want to see a change. So I don't understand very well the questions, because if you have a digital solution that you really think that can bring a solution, you should try to do it yourself. Really. And maybe you will say, yes, but I don't know how to code. When then try to partner with somebody. There's so many contests, challenges. I really like the challenges when you go and you present your idea. So you're like pitching not to investors, but to designers, programmers, and an audience. There are storytellers, copywriters that they can help you put it in through. So I don't know, for the person who's making that question, if they can tell us in which country they are, so that we can tell them about these contests and challenges and all the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I am sure that every single month you will have these kind of opportunities where you will find people who you can team up. It's not just like, I have this idea, you go and do it. We have to team up. We have to be part of the solution.
There is another one. Given that fact-checking can only help people within our own circles, what kind of legislation should we be pushing for to tackle fake news on a wider scale? Hassan, you want to answer that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Given that fact-checking can only help people within our own circles, what kind of legislations should we be pushing for the tackle of fake news on a wider scale?
First, like regarding the fake news, like we need to understand first as daily users for internet, like not everything on internet is true. This is regardless the legalizations. But when we are talking about legalization, especially on internet, like we need to be careful about when talking about this issue, because it opens a lot of discussion. It opens a lot of topics. Some of topics that regarding this issue is related, like for example, about freedom of expression, or freedom of opinion. So when we talk about legalization, we are talking about a big issue, especially legally, because the internet is a wide world, not a small world. But like there are legalizations that we have, like for example, during what we are living now, COVID pandemic, there are a lot of discussion happening about different topics, like a lot of fake news that is spreading all around, like especially make people feel too much stressful, too much. They don't know what to do. What is that true news? What is not? So there is no like strict legalization like to stop this thing, but like legalization can help for example, like we can put a legalization that stop the person, like the source of the news, like from where like this started, like if this fake news or the topic we are talking about, like people are afraid from, like is spreading too much in the community and make people feel afraid or terror or anything. But in addition to this, also like we need also legalizations, I think more also about other topics in internet, which is like regarding harassment, for example, regarding like, you know, the harassment on internet, especially on social media, is too huge. And it's I cannot, like, there is no word really to explain such horrible thing that a lot of people are facing. Like legalization is on internet need also specialists, which is important. I think need people who know how internet work, need people who know also about technology more in order to put the right legalizations.
Yes, and just kind of because we're wrapping up our session now, just as a final point on that, be part of the solution, I think, is the theme of what we've been discussing throughout the chat today. Is there are obviously different levels of change, systematic change and policy, but we can start within our own homes about hosting those empathy circles. We can start within our own minds, even with the digital wellness techniques that were shared around our own digital health. Start with ourselves, start with our family and our friends, educate our social and online communities. So any followers that we all have a voice. And although you may not think you have 1 million+ followers like the influencers you follow, your voice matters. And even the smallest comments and things that you do can really make a difference. And it can be as simple as calling someone out and saying, you know what, that comment is inappropriate. Sometimes people don't even know, like sometimes you need to educate them, because maybe it's just, we've been using some of these terms for so long that they don't know how it's received. So your voice in those situations can really educate, create an opportunity, an invitation for empathy and understanding and growth, and really help move the needle. So just want to summarize, you matter, your voice matters, and we all have a part to play in the solution. Thank you so much to each and every one of our speakers. Carla, Hassan, Sophia, you've been amazing. I really appreciate you dedicating your time for our session today. You are a perfect example of making a difference through your voice, and the work that you're doing is incredible. I really encourage our participants, if you haven't already, to follow our speakers, comment and post on social media if you enjoyed our session and your takeaways, so we can extend those takeaways beyond the circle that is this session, and start putting some of those tangibles into action and moving the dialogue forward. Wonderful. So with that being said, thank you everyone. And I feel I will be wrapping up our session now, and a big silent applause, virtual hug to each of our speakers and each and every one of you for participating in this session. And I want to also just thank Bridging the Gap and our partner Dot for co-hosting this session today.
Thank you very much for the space. I think it's very refreshing to know that there's people out there really interested about the topic. Thank you for all the people that sent questions, because that is what make our time worth it. And I really loved your closing. We can be part of the solution. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It was like a great conversation between us, and I was happy to hear also a lot of people are interested in such topics. Thank you all for this opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.